The National Mass Metering Program aims to close existing metering gaps estimated at 6.5 million customers by the Nigeria Electricity Supply Industry (NESI) over the next 24 to 39 months. And 1 year after, we are about to assess the latest development. And joining me in the discuss is Adetayo Adegbemle. He is the convener and executive director of Power Up Nigeria, an electric power consumer rights and policy advocacy organization. He joins us now via Zoom. Good morning, Mr. Adegbemle.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning to you.
Lagos.
Thank you for joining us on Business Breakfast this morning. Now, part of the objectives of the National Mass Metering Program, that's the NMMP, includes the elimination of estimated billing and improving network monitoring capability, as well as strengthening the local content in meter manufacturing in Nigeria. And it's been more than 365 days. What's your assessment of this scheme? Mr. Adegbemle, okay.
Interestingly, this same question you're asking me is the same question that I just finished answering on another program, some minutes ago. Irrespective of the situation of things in Nigeria, no matter how bad we think things are in Nigeria, let me tell you this: the NMMP from the presidency that's been championed by the SA infrastructure. It was one that the president put directly in charge of MMP, Zachary Ahmed, has been a wonderful success. I mean, this is the first time in Nigeria we're having this level of metering directly to Nigerians. And I'm sure anybody that knows me, anybody that has listened to my programs, anybody that listens to my criticism of the power sector knows that speaking out of the normal tradition. This is way out of my way.
So what are the parameters, what are the indices that you have put together to come to that conclusion?
Good. Last year, September, when the tariff was increased, when the service reflective tariff was introduced, I didn't just come against increment in tariff. I mean, it is natural. It's the normal. I mean, everybody. It's on record. The demands are there. The next thing was that the fact that the labor also threatened to go on strike, and the federal government recognized them and went to meeting with them and everything. And also made a submission to that committee, also stating why tariff should not be increased, which basically is still the same thing. Quality of service has not improved to Nigerians. There is no meter, so a lot of Nigerians are just getting 1 hour light and getting billed for 100 hours. So there is always that contention, and it has not been resolved. Now, one of the things fallout of that meeting was that, okay, fine, we are going to install 1 million meters before December. That's a phase 0. Yes, again, I made a release. My organization made a release almost the following day, and that was on October 24th, precisely, criticizing that move and saying it is unrealistic. The truth is that this is not the first time we'll be having government promising us 1 million meters in the country. But because there's no basis, there's no empirical evidence that it can meet up with that promise. So
it was actually said, sorry to butt in, Mr. Adegbemle, it was actually said that the federal government was going to procure 6 million meters, prepaid meters. That was on October 30, 2020.
In phases. They didn't tell you they will install 1 million or get 1 million meters in one day. And the truth is that there's no warehouse we go to and pick 6 million meters. So, you have to understand why it also has to come in phases. So, but one of the things they said then was the first phase, this is phase 0, it was going to be 1 million meters. So they're like, where are you going to get 1 million meters from? Now, again, we've always been saying that they should encourage local manufacturers. So they said they're going to encourage local manufacturers by also getting the meters from them. So part of the challenge was, even by December, I had a public spat with the SA infrastructure, because by December, they've not even moved a finger. But down the line, 12 months later, we've gotten about over 800,000 meters of course, you have to understand something. The meters are not sitting on any shelf. They have to produce them. Look at manufacturers. Do they have the capacity to supply the 1 million meters even when the federal government was asking for it? It's another question that needed to be answered. So then, when you now ask me, I think the initial question you asked me was, what metrics made me say that NMNP happens to be the most successful program so far? I mean, we are coming to that. Out of all the programming, before privatization in 2013, one of the things that the federal government promised the people that are coming on board was that they were going to meter Nigerians. So they went into metering, mass metering. They didn't do 1 million meters then. After that, they introduced CAPME. CAPME was Credited Advanced Payment Metering Initiative. The idea was that consumers would pay ahead and they would take their money back in energy credit. CAPME didn't do 1 million meters. Then we had the discos that were said, part of their KPIs was install meters for Nigerians. The discos did not do 1 million meters. Then we now had MAP introduced. MAP is meter asset providers. Meter asset providers did not do 1 million meters. At least not in that short span of 12 months that we're looking at, we've experienced. So for NMNP to come and do over 800,000 meters in that short span. Now, using that 12 months also, last 1 year, to try and revise, review, get more people on board and everything. I will say this without missing words. They have performed excellently, but they can also do better.
Are you also aware that some consumers have been complaining that they've had to induce these electricity workers to get their meters? The prepared meters, that is.
Good. Now, let me say this at this junction. I'm going to also speak to my experience in the metering. At the point, I wanted to know what was going on, so I got involved. I went there, went down. That's what my advocacy is about. You have to know what you're talking about before you speak about. The federal government promised 1 million meters. They flushed the market with a number of meters. Maybe not 1 million, but they flushed very close to 1 million. Fine. But then, how do we remove the Nigerian factor from the whole thing?
Exactly.
Don't also forget. See, there is one reality that I came to at one point and that really shocked me. There is no way you can want to push for the power sector to be better without the Nigerian society itself being better. Our political system is a reflection of our society. Our power sector is a reflection of our society. So you have to look at the two. Now, the information went out that meters are free. Some Nigerians are saying, I want it today. They will tell you, wait, this thing is coming in batches. Those that are on band A and band B are the ones that they are attending to now. But you want it. I have people that say they needed 6 meters. How can I get it? How much do I pay? Now, with that kind of inducement, what do you think happens to the people that are on the field? They too, unfortunately, it's the environment that we live in. So we have a situation of somebody that wants to commit crime and there's somebody that is ready to hate the crime. That is what I see in that one. So yes, a lot of people are inducing.
So you do agree that inducements went on or are still going on to get the meters?
Absolutely. Disco staff are still collecting money from Nigerians. I'm promising them meters that they don't have access to. I know that, for instance, for certainty. People in the field that are installing meters are also taking money from consumers, from customers. I know that one for a certain.
So but how do we deal with that issue?
Good. Now, I say, the advocacy is not just to insist that the system must do better. The advocacy that I subscribe to, also insists that my people that you think you are fighting for should also behave better. If the regulation says that don't pay for meters, then don't pay. Don't induce.
But then they get extorted with the estimated billings and they want it to stop.
Good. I understand something. We want this thing to be solved. But this is not a problem. This is not a challenge that was created in one day. And trust me, it's not going to be resolved in one day. So what I'm going to say is, what I'm going to push for, what I'm going to ask for, what I'm going to demand for my fellow Nigerians is, while we are trying to solve a problem, please don't create another problem for us. We have pushed the federal government to the point where they are promising 6 million meters. they've installed the first set where they promised. Fine. The second phase, why do you pay money, for instance, to a disco staff that cannot give you receipt for the money you have paid for?
You
And I'm
seem
sure
to
the
be
discos
putting the
themselves too
blame
are out
at
there.
the doorstep of the consumers. What about the receivers? That's the electricity workers
See,
who are
there
accepting
is
the
no
inducement.
there is no taker without a giver. And I think I said, okay, I said it on the earlier program that I just had. You see, the moment they are coming to your house to install the meter for you, right? They will be telling you that, okay, and we can make this thing to run slow for you. There is no way you can make a meter to run slow. It is simply energy theft. It is simply meter bypass. Are you with me? So if they make you such an offer, do you accept it? Do you also say, Shabi, you are the one that's known about, so yeah, let me pay you to come and do later for me at night? Please don't do such things. I am speaking like this because I have been made such offers. I've been propositioned before. The person that I was speaking didn't know who he was speaking to. They bring you the meter, don't worry, in 2 days. He doesn't have the meter in his room. It's either a stolen meter or he went to pick it from this is majorly stolen meter. We have such cases that are ongoing.
Okay, so now you
Nigerians,
agree that it's both ways. Okay, we'll come back to discuss
there is
more.
no giver without the taker.
Let's take a short
I'm
break.
not blaming anybody, don't get me wrong.
All right, Mr.
All
Adegbemle.
right.
Yes, we'll still talk more when we come back from this break. Please stay with us. Welcome back. You're still watching Business Breakfast on iBrandTV, and I still have with me Aditayo Adegbemle looking at the issue of the National Mass Metering Program of the federal government. And Aditayo Adegbemle is convener and executive director of Power Up Nigeria. Thank you for staying with us, Tayo. Now, barring any changes, Nigerians will from next Monday, 22nd of November 2021, pay for single-phase and three-phase meters by, that's between 30.6% and 32.3% respectively. How do you react to this?
Well, Ali, thank you very much for this question. It's interesting because of the way you put it, said Nigerians will pay. That is not the exact situation that we have on ground. The letter that was leaked to the media, where the whole story started from, was not addressed to the Nigerian public. It was addressed to the heads of discos, the directors, and the meter vendors. So it was not meant to be a letter that goes out. Now, I will explain why. It is because of the inability of the discos to install meters for Nigerians, right? That was why we said, okay, if the discos cannot afford to buy the meters at the cost that it was published now that you have seen, right? They can't afford to buy the meter at that price and install to Nigerians. Why don't you let Nigerians by themselves go and buy these meters? Then the discos will have to pay them back. You know, energy service or whatever, however the regulators agree for the consumers to be paid back.
How feasible is that?
So, well, this is not the first time we'll be doing that kind of scheme in Nigeria. I mean, the credited advance payment system, metering initiative was something like that. By the rule of the power sector reform, by the rule of the privatization, it is the duty of discos to supply meters. I mean, for a host of reasons. I mean, credibility of the meters, integrity of the meters, but they call it integrity. I mean, so when the meter bills you for 1 kilowatt hour, it is exactly 1 kilowatt hour. You know, there's a very little error margin. In fact, there are only 2 error margins that the system, the industry allows. So once your meter goes out of that error system, the meter becomes obsolete. They need to recalibrate it. So because of reasons like that, it is the duty of the discos to install meters for you. But it's because the discos are complaining of shortfalls of revenue, they don't have money to invest, That's how we said, okay, let's introduce MAP, where consumers can pay for that meter cost, discos will go and install it for them, and the discos can pay back the consumers for whatever amount they have paid.
Okay, I'll let that rest, because I know there are cases of consumers saying, oh, we paid for meters and we're expecting them to give us or return our monies back, but we've not gotten the monies. But we'll just let that rest, because we still have a lot of areas to cover. Now, the chairman, Electricity Meter Manufacturing Company, Mr. Kola Balogun, also called on the federal government to empower the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission on corporate governance intervention in the power sector, saying that NEC must be given the power to sack and appoint heads of power generation, transmission and distribution companies if the need similar to what is doing in the banking sector. Now, what's your take on this? Do you agree with this?
Absolutely, absolutely. One of the things that we've also been hopping on, one of the things that I've also been pushing for, is for us to have a regulatory commission that is actually independent and powerful enough for them to execute things. But you see, the other part of the question here is, even those that were appointed, do they have the willingness for them to carry out? I mean, yes, we can add that, let them be able to appoint heads of discos. That's fine, right? But the issue is, are they willing to? Even the laws that we have, the Power Sector Reform Act laws that we have, how many of them are they presently able to execute and push to the end? So yes, while we're also pushing, I mean, I believe an independent regulator, NEC, will be able to achieve that, should be able to achieve that. But then that's where the strength of whoever the commissioners are appointed, whoever is appointed as the chairman, CEO to push the affairs of the Regulatory Commission, that's where it comes in. I think the best time they've had any sort of independence was under this presidency. That was under the Minister of Power, Works and Housing, Tunde Raji Fashola. That was the only time they had any level or any semblance of independence from government. But yes, even the ministry at that point to also push them to act. So I mean, but if we're able to achieve a truly independent metering service provider, NEC Regulatory Commission, I'm sure appointing ability of the power to appoint heads of discos should be a given. Should be a given.
Now, going by every indication, Nigerians should brace up for yet another electricity tariff hike. And of course, we know that the festive seasons are here. We also know that the price of PMS also is in the news, that the price of PMS is also going up. What would be your take home to all watching at this time, especially as it looks like it's going to be a rough time in the days to come?
Well, you see, this is where the challenge is. And I think on lots of platforms that I've been able to speak and, advise Nigerians, I will continue to say this. The tariff review, the biannual tariff review that we have in the country is by law. There is a law, there's a National Assembly Act. Under the Federal Electric Power Sector Reform Act, we have what we call the multi-year tariff order that specifically says that the electricity tariff should be reviewed twice in a year. Now, if Nigerians don't want that, I think the best is for us to see how we can push the National Assembly to amend that law to suit our prevailing condition and situation in the country. But until we're able to do that, unfortunately, we'll continue to have the major tariff review in August that comes into effect in September, and the minor tariff review in December that comes into effect in January, until we're able to achieve that. I'm one of those I've always been pushing. But then, you see, again, this is where the major part for me, the major argument is, there are conditions that are signed before any tariff review is pushed into effect. How many of these conditions are met before the tariff review goes into effect? When we are doing the revision, how many of the promises that were made, for instance, in September, when the tariff review was being done, in August, when the tariff was being done, how many of those conditions were met or have been met since then for them to now put this into effect?